This is the economics marathon. Um, we have done chapter 9 to 10 already. You should watch that video beforehand if you want to continue serial wise. We'll be covering chapters from 11 all the way up to the finished last chapter 16. So let's just skim through all as fast as possible because we don't have that much time. So what is PED? PED, all you gotta know is that first there's the equation. So the equation is the change in the percentage of quantity, not quantity, sorry, of quantity demanded, of quantity demanded divided by percentage change in the quantity supply. Say there's 2 points here. There's point A, and then there's like another point B. And let's draw a line from point A here, and let's draw the line down. Okay, so let's say this point here this is by the way price, and this right here is the quantity. So let's say the price here is like something like $3, and the quantity here is like something like 5. All right, and let's draw another point. Another point that goes a bit down, and this point you gotta have. Let's say this point is 6. Let's say this point is 6, and this point here it's something like 2. So firstly, it's a percentage change in the quantity demanded. So say we have the quantity demand. So it's demand change. Demand change is taking place from initially it's 3 and it's reducing it to 2. So the denominator, the original one is 3, and the numerator is going to be the final minus this initial. This gives us minus 1 multiplied by 100%, and that is our first value. Second one we have is, as we all know, is going to be the denominator. Initially, it's 5, and then it increases 6. The denominator is the final minus initial, which is just 1. Just 1 into 100%. Okay, this 100% gets cut, this 100% gets cut, and what we're left with is the 5 at the top. We get minus 5 by 3, and minus 5 by 3, minus 5 by 3, we get negative 1.6. Now, a little thing you gotta know is that the absolute value for this PED, if it's less than 1, then it is considered inelastic. Now, a little thing you want to keep in mind in economics for maths, we do not think of the 0 as anything else, so we just think it's just not there. Anyways, and the absolute value for the PED, if it's greater than 1, if it's greater than 1, then we call it elastic. So in this case, this is an elastic PED because it is greater than 1. So what is this elastic and inelastic, and how do we know whether it's elastic or inelastic? Well, let's draw like a graph. All right, let's draw a graph. A way you can know whether something's elastic or inelastic is by seeing the gradient of that graph. If the gradient's like this, or wait, no, sorry, if the gradient's steeper or less steeper. Okay, so like if your gradient, say is like this, the more less steeper it is, the more elastic it is. And the more steeper it is, the more inelastic it is. So what determines whether demand is elastic or inelastic? The first one is called the substitute. Basically, it works, let's say we have an example with soap or anything, where there is an option for, if the price gets higher, for the consumer to opt and switch to the next item, which is similar to that item. Usually this item is the same type of item, it could be a different brand. Another one is with timing and time, usually, and the thing is the availability of these substitutes also are important. There's also what's called a luxury versus necessity, where basically if a product is of necessity, let's say it's needed, it is more inelastic than something that's a luxury. That something that a person can opt out of, and that is more elastic. In TLDR, if anything that is easy for you to find substitutes or anything that you can easily opt out of, you can call it something that's being called elastic. If not, we call it inelastic. Right. Now that we're done with that, we can now move on to PES, or price elasticity of supply. And this one is a bit interesting because it's the exact same thing as PED. In fact, I can go to the PED graph. All right, slide intermission. We got a bit of a prayer coming in. Wait. All right, so in a this is but in a PES graph, let's just go to our PED one, is the exact same thing as we did before. The only difference being now is that this is changed with a different line. So this is like this, and it's supply. And we can determine the same thing, and it will give the exact same results. Well, not the exact same results, but basically we can move this point and just wait. Let's say this point here up to here is like 6, and then the point up to here is like 5. In the same way, it's knowing what position we were before and then what's position after, and all we have to do is just change this demand thing to quantity supply. And by the way, it should be change in price. I think I made a mistake and said this is quantity supply. This is the change in price. Please don't mess this up. This was a little mistake I made. It should be change in price, not that. So it's the same thing as before. It's increasing this way. Find a difference, and pretty much that's what PES is. Now, determinants of a PES is actually in our book, and it's pretty well written. Basically, the points are how long is it going to take to make it. So it's basically time. So how long it's going to take to make. How well can we store it, and the cost of modifying it, or the cost of changing it, costs. So that's basically what the determinants are. See, the longer the time, the more inelastic it is, and the more easier it is to store, the more elastic it is. So longer time means it's more inelastic. If you remember what the inelastic drawing looks like, so it should look something like this. No, that's, yeah, okay. And the more less time it takes, the more elastic it is. And the more it can be stored, the more elastic. The less time it can be stored, it is more inelastic. So pretty much that's it. And as for costs, that refers to more costs, more inelastic, less cost, less elastic, more elastic. So now we can go on to the next topic, which is market failure, and it's the most complicated topic that we're going to talk about, that I think, because after this is mixed economic systems, and wait, I think after this is mixed economic systems. Let me check. Oh yeah, sorry. After this is market economic systems. Okay, we're touching this later. Because I hate market failure. So market economic system. So this is basically what this refers to is a market where there's very little intervention by the government. And in turn, basically, the government is not interfering with any sort of market stuff or anything but the price mechanism. So, pretty much, yeah. This market is determined by the price mechanism, and how the market economic system works is it works off by understanding what demands by the customers is and supplying it. And the good things about this is that, well, firstly, because of the high competition, there is a high rate of good quality goods. High rate of good quality goods encourages competition, and it's like a sort of like a cycle, you can say. And because of this, they started getting better and better and better, and It's nice, but there are obvious disadvantages. Firstly, goods that are of not greater importance by or of low demand are not taken into consideration and pretty much are not really made, merit goods especially. And secondly, due to this, it can cause the free riders problem. A free rider is someone who benefits from not paying anything. Anyways, so firms will not make products if they can't charge for them, and of course for this reason people can get stuff for free, which is not what we want. Oh, okay, I got another prayer now. Okay, guys, a little pause. Okay, so another back. The market economic system. So I already talked about how it worked, what is bad, what's good. Now, another thing that is bad about market economic system I did mention is about merit goods and then being not made. Yeah, and basically that's pretty much it for that, for market economies. It's basically about how it only goes for maximum profit. Now, there is also the allocative efficiency, and how that works is basically, let's say you have a graph, and in this graph, I make like that. This middle point, basically all you gotta know is this line that is stretched down, or basically the equilibrium point is the best point of efficiency, where anything below this is called underproduction. This is overproduction. And there's also the PVC curve to also illustrate this as well, where a point inside is not used efficiently and a point on the line is used efficiently. So, yeah. Now it's time for market failure, the more confusing topic of this syllabus that we have. And I am gonna, just because of how complicated it looks, I'm gonna keep this as a separate video, which I will send later on. So market failure, for now, I will not make a video of. I would make a video of it once I figure it out myself. So not now. This is not now. So we'll work on this a bit later. So let's now move on to the next topic, which is called the mixed economic system. The mixed economic system works, it's a lot like market, but there is government intervention, so like taxes and all that is being added. And the way we know how this works, we use by the maximum and the minimum prices. How it works is basically it's anything above the equilibrium point is called the minimum price. Anything below it is called the maximum price. And the thing is, there is also subsidies. We'll talk about that later. And in the mixed economic system, it's pretty confusing overall. And I gotta say, to be honest with you guys, mixed economic system and market failure, these two topics, right now, I will not talk about now. Alright, these two topics, market failure plus the mixed economic system. I'll only tell you the rundown. Mixed economic system is just a normal economic system, but with government intervention. Unfortunately, for chapter 14 and 15, I really can't do anything about it. As for chapter 16, it's about money and banking and how it works. I'll link another YouTube video which you guys can check out for money and banking, which is pretty good and works really well. But for up to that, basically chapter 15, 14, and 15, I'll make a separate video later on, probably going to release at night once I figure this out. But for now, we'll have this done up to what I'm doing now. It's a bit complicated. I'm not that good at economics, so good luck and hit an A star.